My name is Rory Houlihan. I ran for U.S. Senate last spring, 2016, to stop the ticking time bomb so I could put our economy on track for a bright new day instead of all things ending. Now I'm making plans on running for office in 2018, but still, I need to tell you and educate you on the ticking time bombs. To give you the rest of the story, Part 7. My take on the Republican tax bill up for vote. Well, all that talk from conservative Republicans for years about how big bad deficits are disastrous for our economy has to be seen as a bit of cynicism. You can just forget completely, folks, the idea that conservative Republicans are against deficit spending. Actions of this and past two Republican administrations now point to the Republican Party as the big giveaway party and the party of big deficits. Government money once going to government investments, now going to big businesses, which makes conservative Republicans the reverse Robin Hood party. With George W. Bush administration inherited a positive income flow federal budget, and with new stimulus tax program and tax cuts. G.W. Bush left our economy in 2009 with the largest deficit up until that point, and with the banking system in free fall and a million a month job loss rate. Trump Ryan McConnell tax reform bills proposed promises to do the same thing again, making the conservative Republican run government once again the party of boom bust recession. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through another recession. Very bad for the retail sector, if not your sector. Now, we having another Republican president, and guess what? Another new tax plan, and guess what it does? Cuts taxes for basically the wealthy and takes tax deductions from the upper middle class. Creates even more deficit spending. First off, to cut taxes is to defund our government. Remember the principle to defund is to destroy. We have yet another anti American budget. Pro destroy America budget. What gets destroyed is government investment, like our infrastructure, roads, sewers, water, your Social Security, and paying for the repairs of over $100 billion in weather now, fire, flood, and freak, storm damage. We had this last year increasing pro China, Saudi Arabia, and Russian investment as we turn increasingly to pay for deficits as we send them more and more money. In 1927, our economy had a very similar weather back then flooding event, destroying key sectors of our economy back then. Again, Republicans were in control of both houses and the presidency. They too proposed a pro supply side tax and spend budget that ignored repairing the damage that in the 1927 flooding had done. This damage, never repaired, started a downward turn in our economy back then that eventually negatively affected our banking system. Texas is a key producer of plastics and fuel today. Houston, Texas is a key tech center. Um, Houston had areas flooded by a 50-foot rise. I want you to imagine what 50-foot looks like. Mark the beginning of your tape measure. Say you have a 25-foot tape measure, then pull it out again to make it twice as long. Now take a look at where you could run and escape from. That is what happened in Houston, Texas. A lot of folks died in place. I want you to imagine when you're driving down the highway this week to look at your speedometer. When it hits 60 miles an hour, I want you to imagine a fire behind you and catching up to your car, engulfing it in fire. Folks in California were forced to literally flee their cars because they had two choices: burn to death when the car gas tank blows up, or go out in the fire, hoping to run clear of the fast moving fire. That is what happened to folks in California. These extreme fire, flood, and freak weather now events are man made enhanced events, and the investment we need to do to reduce their severity is not being done by this budget. Why no government investment in? We can lower the severity of these weather events, being man made enhanced, but we don't have all day. Understand, these past and future events are damaging key areas, and they will bring down our economy and put us back into a recession. But government investment to repair and reduce the severity of these events will grow our economy. So we're faced today with doing nothing and face a recession, or doing something and face economic growth. Kind of no brainer, isn't it? Further, the House and Senate bills that they have proposed are demand stupid. Remember, supply side monetarism is NV equals PQ. NV represents national demand. PQ represents national supply. Why deficit spending can be bad for our economy is that it causes the federal government to send money offshore and give it to other countries. This reduces the internal money supply in our economy. Currently, our internal money supply is estimated at the same level as 1932, relatively speaking. That, in and of itself, should be a big red flag for not doing any more increases to deficit spending by our federal government. Further, as more and more of our deficit spending is financed abroad, our government's independence is more and more compromised. So we have less and less pro US business and labor legislation due to that. Large deficits increases outside influences on our government and our economy. You want to start to make America great again? You start by making America foreign influenced independent again. And that starts by reducing our deficits. Now, to V, the velocity of money, how many times a dollar is turned. Understand, all business is created by cash flows. When the cash flows, our economy goes. When the cash stops, our economy stops and goes into recession. So increasing velocity is key to growing our economy. Now, this tax plan plans on taking away tax deductions from the upper middle class taxpayers. The upper middle class receives the least amount of government benefit and is ever increasingly asked to pay more and more by Republicans. As a moderate progressive, I believe that taxation should be equal to benefit. Do you know who benefits the most from government? Corporations. Corporations are literally created by government. Who benefits from that commerce the most? Corporations. And yet their taxes are lowered and lowered again and again. But the real damage to our economy is the damage done by to our velocity of money. By transferring the money from 100 percenters and 90 percenters, poor and middle class, to the 0 percenters, the very rich. Remember, 0 times any number, no matter how big it is still 0. To be honest, the very rich have a near 0 velocity. But when you take into account their offshoring of their income and into tax havens offshore, and that they are investing their money in external investments, consolidate to collapse mergers, which collapses the number of businesses That collapses competition, that collapses jobs, and that collapses opportunity. All negatives. Add in that many of the very rich offshore a lot of the income, which then reduces the internal money supply. That is in our economy. So the very rich effects on the velocity and the money supply is zero. Demand is zero and is demand stupid. Under the new tax and spend plan, the U.S. demand will go down. And that is why over 100 of the richest folks say that they're against this tax and spend plan. When you see self-interested, smart money being against this tax and spend plan, that should be a real indicator, a real red flag of your need to call your senators and say, you are against this tax plan. In short, both the House and Senate tax reforms are demand stupid and are anti-America, anti-American economy, anti-hard working, and you need to call your senators and let them know. If you like what you hear, would you do me a favor and subscribe to the Rory for Us YouTube channel? You have a good and blessed day, folks.